If you ride motorcycles and you want to do it better, safer, faster, more enjoyably, I can help. My name's Gogo. I've been racing motorcycles since 1988. It's 2024 now, and I'm faster today than I've ever been before. How is that possible, you might ask? Well, I can tell you how. Exactly how. Right now. My buddy Derek is new to racing this year. He's pretty green and he's got a ton of questions, just like I did back in the day. But I didn't really have a lot of people to ask, which makes me wish so badly that I could go back in time and teach myself the things that I know now. But I can't. That's not the way life works. But what I could do is teach Derek. I can make Derek better. I can make him faster. I can make him safer. And I can save him so much time and money. But like anything else in life, nothing comes for free. So I made Derek a deal. I said, I'll start teaching you. I'll teach you anything you want to know under one condition. He said, what's that? You got to let me film it for my channel. He said, no freaking way. I said, great. I'll see you at 3 o'clock tomorrow. We have footage to look at, we have data to look at, and we got a lot of lessons to learn. It's pretty cool. I mean, this will be very helpful to everybody, and not to you at all, but to everybody else. Try to be dead serious.
All right.
I appreciate. No, don't shake my hand.
I'm ready.
Just look stupid. Can you look stupid?
That's whatever it takes to get faster.
Okay, so it's 3 o'clock, and here's Derek.
Shit.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for offering to share your more vulnerable side, because this is going to hurt. And you're not going to get any benefit out of it at all. But everybody else is. That's my plan.
That's what I signed up for.
Derek is a new racer, right? So
yes.
This was your first year racing.
First season.
He's done track days a little bit, right?
Yep.
And then this year, I finally pushed him to go racing. On my old Superduked.
Yep.
You honey. That thing goes around a track really good, right? It's because I set it up.
It does, but I don't. That's the
So Derek did a couple of years of track days.
Yes.
And then this year I convinced him to do racing. And let me tell you something. I went to one of your first track days, and it was painful.
On the scrambler.
I don't think that if I tried my best to slow down and guide you around, that I could have gone that slow without falling off the bike.
Yeah.
I don't know how you manage that. It's a talent.
It's embarrassing to look at the pictures, to go back and look at the...
Yeah. You've come a long way in a short time. Not at all due to anything that I've done to help. But going forward, maybe there's some things that I can teach you. Now, first thing I gotta say is everybody's the professional. Every teacher's knows everything, and oh, this is the way you're supposed to put your body, and this is the way you're supposed to put the brakes, and you know what? Bullshit. It's bullshit. Because I believe everybody rides different. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So, some people have physical limitations because of maybe an injury. Some people are bigger, smaller. Some people are flexible. Some people are not. Some people really like speed. Some people are a little bit afraid. So all of these things are going to create different centers of gravity and weight and how you manage a bike. So I don't believe in the idea that there's one way to control a motorcycle. Mm. And if you don't do it that way, you're lame. You're lame regardless, but for different reasons.
On and off the track.
No, really. So, when I want you and everybody to understand you, I don't have this idea that I know the only way, the best way. Mm-hmm. I know the way I do it. And for 35, 6, 7, 9, how many 100,000 years it is that I've been racing motorcycles, when I look back all this time that I've raced, there's only really this much of that time. And it's in the recent number of years that I am so proactively thinking about how I ride. I think of it like riding is proactive or reactive. And by reactive, I mean you throw the bike into the turn, you're going as fast as you can. Bring it like this, and you get in there, and now you have a problem, right? I'm going a little too fast, and I'm going to miss the apex. What do? Like, oh my God, so you're like freaked out about missing this apex, and then finally you get the bike under control and you make the apex. Okay, now you're way too deep, you're way too far, you missed the next, the exit, and now you got to fix that. And you work to fix that, and you're sweating and you're out of breath, and sometimes I used to hold my breath. Most of the decades that I raced, I held my breath. Sometimes I would hear like a tss, 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 and I'm like, oh God, my bike's blowing up. I'm in the lead and everything's going to shit. I knew it was going to happen on the last lap. It was me breathing that I heard. Because I would, that's the way I rode. And I don't do that at all anymore, at all. But it's only the last 5 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I don't know whether I hit my head or something, but I think of things in a very different way.
Was it one race that changed it?
Nope.
Or was it?
No. Actually, it's Superdukes. It's riding a motorcycle that was not designed to ride. So, in a way, I was faster than the motorcycle. Where years before, like riding a Ducati Superbike, 999R, 749R, or an R1, or a ZX10, or whatever bikes they raced, they were better than me. So, like, oh my God, I'm always like, I'm the weakest link in the chain. Then
Bike's riding you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just barely holding on. That's actually not that enjoyable. But get on Superdukes that weren't designed to do the things that we need to do. And why won't it work? Why won't it work? Right? How come this and that? And I would get it measured and I would do these things. And I did a lot. I worked on this bike, the Gen 2 Superduke, for years, trying to improve the setup. Use some of the clues that I learned while racing Suzuki's and Kawasaki's and Ducatis for a lot of years. Apply those things, and all of a sudden, some things start to feel better. And then I'm thinking like, oh, that's really interesting. Why? And this and that. And then on the Gen 3 Superduke with a link, when all that stuff came live, instead of this bike doesn't have a link, this bike does, that opened up possibilities of geometry and science and mapping and all these really cool things. So I really started thinking consciously. I became very aware of how the bike was working beneath me. And once I started to learn that, then it made me think about how to ride a little bit differently to take advantage of something or to avoid something. This thing had an area that I learned how to avoid. Like the swing arm would compress a little too much through the stroke in some areas because it has a regressive spring rate, which is a whole nother subject. But so learning to deal with that and get around that, and that was a learning experience. And this thing, although it comes with a linkage, horrible. Horrible. This is nowhere near as fast as that bike, chassis-wise. Once I got that thing set up, jumped on this, slower, 2 seconds. It was really struggling. But working my way around that, by being thoughtful and being scientific. And I met Gavin, my buddy Gavin, who's this rocket science smart dude, and started working with Moto Spec in Canada and all the geometry numbers and understanding rake and trail and swing arm angles and squat, anti-squat, all these things. And I got data acquisition. Potentiometer on the fork, potentiometer on the shock.
Full telemetry on that bike.
Yeah.
Everything.
All over the place. And what's important today, the really interesting thing that we'll get into in a little bit, is I mounted a potentiometer on the steering damper. So the computer, the AIM computer that's in the tail section, that has nothing to do with the KTM, not only does it know where the forks are, where the shock is, where there's, all these things happening, RPMs, everything, but it knows bar input. So I have taught people riding tips and brought people around and give people tips, and I've always talked about this theoretical thing of counter steering and how I counter steer more positively, like more thoughtfully, a little more exaggerated than I used to, than maybe people around me do. And I've talked about why, and usually, and I've even done this with you, You talk to somebody about counter steering, and then they're like, their eyes start to cross, and they get a little glazed over, and they're thinking about whatever they're thinking about, but it ain't what I'm talking about because it doesn't sound true. One of the most fucked up experiences that you've had in your childhood was learning how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, you were on a tricycle and, you wanted to turn right. Around the refrigerator, around the kitchen table. Everything you've done, you just do it. Then you get on a bicycle, your dad pushes you, and it all goes wrong. Right? Because what do you learn? Like, what you learn without anyone really explaining it that way. And this is why it's a fucked up experience. I think it's traumatic. I'm going to go back to my youth and tell my dad, you had this all wrong. You got to approach it like this. So the basic scenario is when you're turning, you create G-forces. You're fighting against G-forces, right? Mm-hmm. You're turning left, so G-forces want to not make you turn left, basically, right? You're fighting against this force. So in order to turn, you have to lean, right? But if you turn without leaning, you fall. Right? So what's the first thing you have to do to turn?
You actually have to turn away from the actual corner you're looking.
But even more basically than that, the first step that you have to do, and I'm not saying it comes 10 minutes before you turn. It's like an instant before you turn. But the first thing you have to do in order to turn left is lean left. Mm-hmm. If you turn before you lean, you fall over.
Right.
So what I talk about is instead of thinking it like you're leaning into a turn, right? If the tires are on the ground here and you're up here, instead of thinking it like you're leaning into a turn, I think of it like you're bringing the bottom of the bike out.
Yeah.
So when you counter steer, let's say I'm going left, and you turn this way, your tires are what's touching the ground, right? That's where your leverage is, all the way down to the floor, 3 feet below you, 4 feet below you, depending on the bike you're riding. So you turn like this, the bottom of the bike goes, whoa! Well, now you're leaning.
Right.
And you're leaning that quickly. And this is why I bring it up now, because in racing or track days, you're going faster than on the road, right? So you learn how to ride a bike at 8 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of counter steer that goes on, especially like 12 miles an hour. It's a little bit like, what the hell is happening here? So you get used to that, right? Then you get on a motorcycle and you ride at 50 miles an hour. Whoa! Right? The first turn you go through, it's like, whoa, you're going wider and you're wider, like, what is happening here? So you get used to the mass without really thinking about the whole counter steering thing, but you just naturally get used to that, and now you understand counter steering without even thinking about it. Then you get on a racetrack, and now you're going 150 miles an hour.
Different
Same thing happens, right?
Yeah.
Whoa! Like, I gotta go over there, and nothing wants to go there. What the hell is happening? So you're slow as shit.
Yep. Can confirm.
So, counter steering, I don't want this video to be about counter steering, because there could be a video, and there will be a video specifically about counter steering. But for now, we'll say that this is one of the key things that you need. Like, it's a tool in your toolbox that you need in order to be able to operate a motorcycle.
Right.
Get it to go where you want it to go in that much time. Because you need to be quick. You went over turn 1 at Laguna Seca. I doubt you were full throttle, but you were going fast.
Trying to, yeah.
If you don't know how to control your bike at that speed, you're going off the track.
Yeah.
You're going into the dirt. And it's going to be an uncomfortable ride.
Yep.
Then you hit the brakes for turn 2, and you got to turn sharp all the way around, more than 180 degrees.
Yes.
If you don't know how to control the motorcycle well, it's going to be either you're going to crash, or it's going to be really slow, or you're going to be way offline. or all three of the things? Here is the data part of what we just looked at, turn 2 at Laguna Seca. And this dot right here is representing exactly where this is, right here on the track, all right? So this is initiating the main part of the turn. I mean, if you look at this little map, it's a long arc on the brakes as you enter, like as you're approaching down the hill, starting to lean in a little bit, but it's just like an arc. It's not really a turn yet. Braking. You can brake super hard while you're arcing in. You just can't brake super hard while you're turning in. So this is the point where the letting go of the brake and the counter steering happens at the same time. It's like loose, right? Loose. Yeah. Push forward and let go. That's where this is happening. If you think I'm bullshitting you, there's no bullshitting data, right? Here is the data. So the blue line represents
steering.
This is the potentiometer that I put on the steering. This line right here is neutral, means I'm not steering right, I'm not steering left. So anytime the line is below, means I'm turning right. So the motorcycle is going this way, where we're traveling in this direction, and we're approaching a left-hand turn. So look what happens right at that point. I turn the bars right. So I let go of the brakes, push forward. All the weight of braking is on my shoulders, and I just let it push forward, which steers the bottom of the bike out, and then now we're in a turn. So you can see, I'm steering a little bit right for the arc all the way down this hill, but then much more intense right for this moment that puts the bike on its side. Yeah, so you see, this is the brakes, right?
The red's the brakes.
The red is the brakes. As the brakes go off, look what happens. The turn happens, and it's like a millimeter apart. It happens like that. Didn't make it up. I've been talking about this for years. I wanted to put that potentiometer on the bike so bad, and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and then I had to buy special wires and cables and all this bullshit, and finally got it done for that event. I'm so glad. Quick pause, please. Learning how to control your motorcycle better is a really important part of enjoying your motorcycle more, right? But there's another part. Getting your bike set up, the chassis set up to respond better to your input. If you ride a KTM 1290 Superduked, you might have noticed it's a bear to manage. Go to Superduked.com. I make sport links, super links, and now an adjustable offset triple clamp that is badass. There's a link in the description, or go to Superduked.com. I remember, like it was yesterday, like it was today, what would go through in my head when I was trying to go faster. And every single day that I've gone to a racetrack, been at a racetrack, drove home from a racetrack, every day for all those years has always been focused on going faster. And you know how often I had the answer on exactly what I needed to go faster?
Never. Almost never.
Until recently, really, there was not an answer that I had access to. Always trying, though. So now I have much better answers. So when you're at the track, when you go around, if I pass you and I'm at speed, what do you think? Like I passed you fast a couple times, once or twice, where I didn't slow down to take you around. What was your thought?
That I'm so far away from where I could be, like the limit, you know, where I feel like I'm on the edge, I feel like I'm doing the best I can do, and clearly there's this much of a gap of where I could be to where I am today. You know what I mean?
Well, the first thing I'll say is I've experienced that, and don't let it get you down, because we're all doing the best we can, and you might be the fastest guy at the racetrack. You might be the fastest dude, but really all that means is the faster dude didn't show up that day. Because there's only one person in the world who could say they were the fastest guy on a motorcycle. Right. And they can only really say that day.
Right.
Because next week in MotoGP, when they're at the next event, that dude getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, right? It's
Absolutely.
not like Formula One, Verstappen won like every race this year, didn't
Right.
he?
Like 18 races this season.
I mean, it's like, why do you even watch the races? It's boring. But MotoGP is not really like that.
No, it was a good fight this year.
Yeah, and usually there's not one person always dominating. So don't get all in your head about feeling like, oh, at Sears Point in the AMA Superbike race with Mladen and Yates and Neil Hodgson and Eric Bostrom on the Ducati. I was on the Ducati. Hodgson was on the Ducati. And I had this one lap this one session where I already qualified really well.
Yeah.
For who I was. I wasn't beating any Superbike pro guys, but I was the next best idiot. And I was excited about that. So, of course, you want to go faster even. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you never rode Sears Point, but there was a long straightaway that would go up this hill and brake so hard and turn around 180 degrees in very sharp turn. Many downshifts on the brakes, bike swimming like this, go around. So I'm going to do better than I ever did.
Yeah.
I'm going to go deeper, harder. I'm going to just nail this lap. And I went in so deep that I heard myself yell in the helmet, in my own helmet. Oh, like this, which happens, all right? I don't usually admit that, but sometimes I do yell in the helmet when things get carried or when I'm crashing, which is like, how are you shocked that you're crashing? Doing the shit we do on a motorcycle? I'm always like, oh my God, like how could that be happening? What do you mean, how could that be happening? I'm surprised it doesn't happen every session.
Yeah.
So I'm yelling in the helmet, no way I'm going to make this turn. The bike was out of shape. I mean, it was an intense moment. And I hear this, like, sound. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I didn't know whether it was my chain coming off or my tire hopping, but I didn't feel the vibrations, like, or an F-16 was landing behind me or something. I don't know what it was. But I kept composure, and I'm fighting to stop before the apex, and Aaron Yates comes by me on the inside, sideways. If his front wheel was here, his wheel was here, right? So he was like this, and the bing was his back tire, ding, 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 ding. And he passes me on the inside while I'm yelling that I'm going to miss the turn, and goes into the apex. And so I'm going for the apex. And we both go around, and he drives out, and I'm like, he's riding on a different planet.
Yeah.
Like, the laws of physics that applied to my situation were very different than the laws of physics that applied to Aaron's situation. And, man, 3-4 turns later, I didn't even know he was on the track. So I was going fast.
Yeah.
And I was going slow at the same time. So, that's what I'm saying. Don't let it get you down when you get smoked by somebody.
Right.
Because it's all relative. Just worry about you. And you get there one step at a time. Little steps. Because when you come in, you're like, I'm 3 seconds a lot faster. The first thing I'm going to say is, you're about to crash. Because that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Little steps, and you'll be much safer.
Yes.
So that's one thing that you take in from being out there and you get passed by somebody. But like, how about, are you like, oh, I can't do this. Like, why can't I this or why can't I that? Do you ever have things like that?
It's frustrating making the same mistake over and over.
How do you know you made a mistake?
Well, even actually looking at the data and going back and saying like, oh, I was trying to work on this entering wider or narrower through the corkscrew, and like knowing that I'm working on it, yet still missing the line that I'm supposed to be on. You know what I mean? Like using the track on the exit, and I look at the lines and I'm not there.
Okay, so here's a question for you. What do you mean the line you're supposed to be on?
What the line the fast guys are on. You know what I mean?
Okay, so this is a good point to talk about. Often, I've done a lot of track walks. I do the Ducati Rebs days. They ask me to instruct sometimes. So you take groups of people out, and sometimes the instructors that have a group of people with them, maybe they're walking really slow. So I'll walk my group past them, or So you'll hear other instructors talking about lines. And they're always saying, you want to be here, and you head in there because there, and then you want to be stand here. Like, look up, see, this is where you came from, and this is where you're going. And everyone's like, yes, sir, writing notes. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I often hear people talking about where to be on the track. And maybe why you want to be there, right? Because it sets you up for a good drive, or, as you come here, you're too early, you're going to clip the apex, all these things. But I don't hear people talking very often about how to get there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like you end up with your conundrum. Well, I can't, fuck, I screwed it up again.
Yeah.
It's the fifth lap and I miss the apex every time. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
So that sounds like one of the things that you're having a conundrum about.
Yeah. Turn 2 Laguna is a great example.
Turn 2 Laguna. Which apex do you miss?
The first.
I knew it. I mean, I know this because I followed you.
Yeah.
So I'm making believe I don't know these things, but I already know these things.
Yeah. But I have to say, October wasn't the only time we went to Laguna. We went to Laguna earlier in the year.
Arma, Stefano Mesa.
Yeah.
How can I forget? Mother.
I remember.
He was a nice guy, actually.
And I completely missed turn 2 every time because I approached it very wrong. And when we went to dinner that night, you said, hey, this is where you enter it, and it's a double apex turn rather than trying to turn it into a single apex. And I focused on that. And it got a lot better, but it's still not right. You know what I mean? It's closer, but it's still off. I'm still missing the first apex. If we look at the lines, which we'll look at, it's off. The exit's wrong.
Well, there's probably a few things going on, and I have a little bit of advantage. I'm not just basing what I'm going to say on what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm basing it also on what I saw when I followed you. Having the conscious, like, we all have the ability to turn the motorcycle, right? Well, hopefully, luckily. But having the ability to be conscious of how you're turning the motorcycle is different than turning the motorcycle. Like, because you can go around the track and it's all just, natural, I'm gifted, but you don't really know how you're doing it. I told you, I went around the racetrack once at Thunder Hill following this guy who was raw talent, like very rare in a human being. He raced motocross mostly. Okay. I'm forgetting his name right now. Anyway, it's not important. Skinny little guy, unbelievably fast. He could win Farm of the Pacific at Thunder Hill on a 600, racing open class super bikes. He just was so gifted. So we went around turn 2 once, and he was right in front of me. And halfway through Thunder Hills, leaned over like this. Halfway through, he picks up his right foot. He turns his foot out. He put his foot back down, his heel on the foot peg. And then he started this push and drive out. And I was like, what the hell did I just see happen?
Yeah.
So it was late in the practice. We go back. I go to my pit, put the bike on the stand, don't even take my helmet off. Right to his pit. I'm taking my helmet off as I'm in his pit. He's taking his helmet. I'm like, listen, Joey Pascarella. That was his name. I said, Joey, you don't know me. I don't really know you, but I just was behind you in turn 2. What the hell did I just see you do?
Yeah.
And he laughed like, and he's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It was, you can see it from a helicopter. You go around the turn, you lift your foot, you put it out, you put your heel in the pit. He's like, really? Like, talk about raw, natural talent that you're not really conscious of. Mm-hmm. Like, I talked about being proactive or reactive. So that was neither one. He's doing neither one. He just had so many laps, so much time on motorcycles, just doing it, right? I'm not that good. I don't have much time, right? So I proactively, consciously think of the things that I'm doing purposefully and get around the track. Mm-hmm. You're not doing that.
No.
You're trying to, you know the bike should be here, and you're like hoping it gets there and wanting it to be there, but you're not really doing anything purposefully to get it there. Because if it was 50 miles an hour, you'd be there.
Yeah.
But like I said before, the countersteering thing, when you understand it at 50 miles an hour, it's one thing. But 150 miles an hour,
it's different.
120 miles an hour, you have to proactively, you have to purposefully do the things that you do to control a motorcycle. Otherwise, it's going to be a bear to turn. It's really going to be hard. And that's what you're having a hard time with. Mm-hmm. You're having to get the fucking thing to go there. That's the first thing that you're struggling with. The second thing you're struggling with is it's like the virus that happens to a racer or a track day dude. Everybody who tries to go as fast as they can go around a racetrack or a mountain road, or God forbid, the trees. But you know what I mean? When you're trying to push yourself as hard as you can push yourself, this is what happens. This is what happened to me for decades. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like a decade.
Right.
And I don't mean 2 decades. When I say decades, I mean 3 decades, more than that, of trying to go as fast as I could. Mm-hmm. Because you're out there and it's the reactive situation. You're just like this. And then you went too deep into the turn. And now you're, oh God, brakes. And you're like, oh God, I got it stopped, right? I got it stopped. Now I got to turn in. You already missed the apex thinking about how you just stopped the bike somehow remarkably.
Right.
And now that you get the apex done, you already should have been exiting the turn. The whole lap. Every lap of the day, of the weekend, of the year, of the decade, you spent riding reactively. Mm-hmm. And there's a better way. There is a better way. So, you're riding reactively. Mm-hmm. You're wanting it to be somewhere, but you're not really stopping to think, how can I get this bike there? Mm-hmm. Because if you knew you could prepare for it before getting to this point where you're like, fuck, I missed it again, right? And one of the things that you need to learn to do that is to pick a place to go the slowest, mm-hmm. purposefully. You got to say, well, in the words of Dale Cordley, who's a character, you met him. You met Dale Cordley. I brought you to Sears Point at the AMA National, and he was teaching kids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
And you're like, who's that dick? He's not a dick. He just has a rough way with words and can come off that way. He's been pissing people off his whole career. He doesn't race anymore, but he was in AMA. Mm-hmm. So they would Kawasaki had pro, their contracted riders. Ducati had their contracted, Suzuki. And I'm talking about days of like Fred Merkel, who won the World Superbike in AMA, and like top dudes. Chandler and Russell, Scott Russell, all these dudes. Dale Cordley was in AMA Superbike then. And he wasn't a privateer like I was a privateer. He actually had a real sponsor. He had some connection to money.
Yeah.
So he was a very good racer, and he would lease motors, bikes from factories. Like, it was kind of the beginning of that whole thing. Like, in MotoGP, there's like the satellite teams.
Yeah, like VR46.
Exactly. He was doing that in AMA in like 1993. Right? So it's like, what? Dale Cordley, I hired him a number of times. He used to also teach for Penguin School, but I sometimes would hire him personally. Come to the track and teach me how to go fast. And he had this really cool way of talking you through a turn. He would break it down to 3 steps. He'd say, get it in, get it turned, get it out. With curse words.
Yeah.
So there's more to it than that, obviously. But so let's say there's a handful of tools that you need to get it in. To get it on the brakes.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of tools that you need in order to be able to turn it and things you need to do. And then there's a whole nother process about getting out of the turn. But very basically, that hasn't changed. It's still get it in, get it turned, get it out.
Right.
Right? So those are the jobs. So the thing about it is, when you get it turned, that's when you want to go the slowest.
Yeah.
Right? So you and Gavin, because I've followed Gavin too, and I've raced with him for years, and I love Gavin. He's part of what has made me wiser about a motorcycle and on a motorcycle. I've learned so many things. 100% all around the racetrack. There is no slowing down. He does not slow down. He goes as fast as he can. And matter of fact, we share data sometimes, right? So he has a Superduked. The same year, everything that I have. Like, we've even traded, like, I give him all my setup information. He doesn't always follow it, but I give him my setup, and he's got aimed in acquisition. The only thing different is I have the steering potentiometer. He doesn't. But we have the same otherwise. And he'll say, can I have your data from last weekend? I'm like, yeah, sure. Take it, download it, whatever you want. And he always, the next time we go for a bike ride, he's like, you know, I'm faster than you going into turn 3. You know, I carry more roll speed than you going through turn 3. You know, I get on the gas harder than you. I actually accelerate harder than you. I'm like, yeah, God. Do you know I'm 5 seconds a lot faster than you around the track? So, well, besides that, I get in faster. He loves finding things that he does faster, and it's fantastic. I love it. We laugh about it all the time. But the point is, the most profound thing that came from that is once he said to me, I think I have my roll speed pretty much through there. I think my roll speed's faster than you by like a mile per hour or 2. I'm like, yeah, I know. Because I want to go slower there. Like, I'm slowing down on purpose. Slower than you. And he was like, motherfucker. Like, he hated that because it made him think, and he's like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Because 4 feet later is where he's running out of track. And I have it on footage. I have it on camera. And I'll share it. But, you know, we go through the turn, and I slow down a touch, and I can just turn like Dale Cordley. Get it in, get it turned. I get to that point. Okay, here we are. Lift the bike up, turn it, put it back down. Now let's get out of here. And that's where Gavin starts to go wide on the exit and can't accelerate anymore. Runs out of track. Right? So those are 2 things that you do. Sorry for so many words. But one, you're reactive the whole process. You're going like, oh, God damn it. The 2 is you're not being strategic enough about the speed. It's okay. You have to slow down in order to go faster. If you don't ever slow down, you can't go faster. You can try. You can try. But the third thing that happens, that was luckily for you, congratulations, you haven't done this. But this is when you crash, right? You want to know how you avoid crashing on a motorcycle, on a track, on the street, when you're pushing, whenever you're pushing, racing, is you don't break your turns down into pieces, right? When you do what you do, when you get it in and you're going 100%, I don't want to give anything back. You know what I mean? It's like I earned to be going this mile per hour. I had the courage, and I didn't crash. And it's like, this is an amazing accomplishment. I don't want to give it away. Right. So I'm going to keep rolling at this speed. I don't want to give that away. And now it's time to accelerate because I'm at the second apex. So you just accelerate. Right. But you're not done turning. You didn't get it in. I mean, you got it in, but you didn't really get it turned. But you just got to the point where it's time to turn, but you're still not turned. So then you're continuing to turn and you're accelerating because it's time to. That's when you go over the bars. Yeah. That's when you accelerate. So you have the benefit of having a bike that's set up really well, and that's probably helped you a little bit. But I gave you 3 things. Now, what do you think?
Well, I'm just glad I'm not the only one getting criticized up here. I appreciate Gavin a lot.
You know what? The only reason I'm able to identify with your struggle is because I have done the same thing. Only I did it forever. And you're only going to do it for a little while.
Yeah, that's the goal.
We're sitting down.
That's the goal.
And we're sitting down and I'm beating the shit out of you. Like,
I feel like that punching bag over there.
I'm browbeating you for your benefit and for the benefit of everybody else, because we all, including me, probably more than anyone, right? I've made this mistake more than you have, and way more than you have. That's how I know what you're doing wrong, because I've done it. So hopefully this can help you not do it so much. Right? Work your way past it. Well, that went pretty well. That was part 1 of what maybe we can turn into a more extensive series of lots of videos, helpful videos with tips and lessons people have taught me and things I can pass on to you. Maybe get you to have your own ideas. The one thing is they take a little bit of work. So you can help me back by liking, subscribing, maybe put a comment in below and share the video. If there's someone else you know who rides that might get something out of it too, send it along their way. The videos take a little bit of work, and these things, likes and subscriptions, they're inspiring, right? So inspiration fuels the next video, the next idea, and everything grows and we all get better and faster. It's all about being faster.